The boardroom fell silent the instant the elderly matriarch pointed toward the single father standing beside her daughter and declared that a man who counted every dollar could never be worthy of their family. Employees lowered their eyes, investors shifted uncomfortably in their seats, and the little girl holding her father's hand quietly squeezed his fingers as though she already understood what humiliation felt like. No one imagined that less than 3 years later, that same humble father would walk back through those glass doors as the legal owner of the billion-dollar company that had once rejected him, and the first person he would approach would be the woman who had broken his heart with a single sentence that if you believe kindness is stronger than pride, forgiveness is greater than revenge, and everyone deserves a second chance. Please like this video, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, share this story with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel to become part of our growing community. Graham Mercer had never dreamed about becoming wealthy. His dream had always been painfully simple. He wanted to raise his 8-year-old daughter, Elsie, into the kind of woman who would never measure another person's worth by a paycheck. Ever since his wife had passed away from a sudden illness, every sunrise had begun with packing lunches, braiding Elsie's hair after watching countless online tutorials, driving an old delivery van across the city, and finishing each day exhausted but grateful they still had each other. Money was always short, but laughter was never missing from their tiny apartment. Graham often reminded his daughter that rich hearts built richer lives than expensive houses ever could. Life unexpectedly changed when he met Clara Whitmore during a community charity event held in a public park one bright Saturday morning. Clara came from one of the city's wealthiest families, owners of Whitmore Holdings, a company whose name appeared on hospitals, schools, and skyscrapers. Yet away from cameras and business meetings, Clara volunteered quietly, serving meals and helping children paint murals. Graham admired her kindness long before he learned her last name, while Clara admired the gentle patience with which he treated every stranger he met. Their friendship slowly became something deeper. Clara adored Elsie almost immediately, and Elsie found comfort in Clara's calm presence without ever feeling she was replacing her late mother. For nearly a year they built a relationship founded on respect instead of luxury. Graham never asked for gifts or favors. Clara never cared about the age of his van or the size of his apartment. She believed character mattered more than status. The only person who refused to see what Clara saw was her mother, Vivian Whitmore. Vivian had spent decades protecting the family empire after losing her husband years earlier. Every decision she made revolved around preserving the Whitmore legacy. She believed marriage was a business partnership, and love without financial equality was simply a dangerous investment. When Clara finally introduced Graham to the family during a daytime gathering at the company's headquarters, Vivian barely disguised her disappointment. She studied his worn shoes, inexpensive watch, and calloused hands before offering a polite smile that never reached her eyes. The meeting became unbearable when Graham explained that he worked multiple delivery routes and occasionally repaired furniture on weekends to cover school expenses for Elsie. Vivian interrupted with cold precision, declaring before everyone present that her daughter deserved stability, influence, and someone who could contribute to the empire rather than depend upon it. She insisted that a man struggling to pay rent could never stand beside a Whitmore. Then came the sentence that echoed inside Graham for years. She called him too poor for her daughter. Graham looked toward Clara, whose eyes filled with tears as she defended the man she loved. But the pressure from board members, relatives, and business partners surrounded her from every direction. Vivian demanded Clara choose between the relationship and her future leadership of the family company. Graham made the hardest decision of his life that he quietly stepped away, not because he agreed with Vivian, but because he refused to become the reason Clara lost everything she had worked to build. Before leaving, he thanked Clara for showing Elsie that compassion still existed in the world. Then he walked away holding his daughter's hand, carrying nothing except dignity. The months that followed were painfully difficult. Graham questioned whether sacrificing love had been the right choice. Yet every morning the rising sun reminded him that self-pity would never feed his daughter or shape her future. He accepted more delivery contracts, studied business management through free public courses, and slowly noticed patterns others ignored. Small local manufacturers were closing because large corporations delayed payments for months. Graham believed there had to be a better way. With borrowed equipment, countless daytime meetings, and endless determination, he founded a logistics company focused on helping smaller businesses receive faster transportation and fairer contracts. He promised every client honesty before profit. The beginning was brutal, vehicles broke down, banks rejected loan applications, competitors mocked the tiny company, several employees resigned. Still Graham refused to cut corners or deceive customers. His greatest motivation remained Elsie, who completed homework inside the warehouse while cheering every small victory. Whenever business seemed impossible, she reminded him that quitting would teach the wrong lesson. Gradually something remarkable happened. Satisfied clients recommended his company, employees appreciated being treated with respect, local businesses trusted his word more than polished advertising campaigns. Within 4 years, the small warehouse became a regional logistics network. Within 6 years, investors approached Graham instead of the other way around. He accepted only those who believed in ethical growth. Across the city, Whitmore Holdings quietly struggled. Years of prideful leadership, risky acquisitions, and outdated management slowly weakened the once powerful empire. Vivian dismissed younger executives who suggested innovation. Profits declined. Valuable divisions were sold. Rumors spread that the company needed emergency financing. Clara fought tirelessly to modernize operations but lacked enough voting power to overrule the board. She often remembered Graham's calm wisdom about listening before leading. More than once she wondered what life might have looked like if fear had never separated them. One sunny morning financial headlines shocked the city. Mercer Logistics had announced a strategic investment fund large enough to acquire struggling corporations. Nobody expected the next announcement. Mercer Logistics had legally purchased a controlling interest in Whitmore Holdings after several institutional investors sold their shares. News cameras gathered outside headquarters, employees whispered in disbelief, executives nervously prepared for dramatic layoffs. When Graham entered the building, he wore the same humble smile he had carried years earlier. His suit was more expensive now, but his eyes remained unchanged. Vivian sat silently inside the boardroom, suddenly understanding that the man she had dismissed had become the owner of everything she had tried to protect. She expected humiliation, she expected revenge. Instead, Graham thanked every employee for remaining loyal through difficult years. He announced that no honest worker would lose employment because of the acquisition. Salaries would be protected while unnecessary executive privileges would be reduced first. The room erupted into emotional applause. Finally Graham turned toward Vivian. The proud woman who had once commanded every conversation could barely lift her head. Age and stress had softened her confidence. For the first time she saw not a poor delivery driver but a father whose greatest wealth had always been integrity. She quietly admitted that she had judged him by numbers instead of values. She confessed that protecting an empire had cost her the ability to recognize genuine character. Tears rolled down her face as she apologized not only to Graham but also to her daughter for allowing pride to replace love. The silence felt endless. Everyone waited to see whether Graham would finally repay years of pain. Instead, he gently explained that buying the company had never been about revenge. It had been about saving thousands of jobs, preserving the work of honest employees, and proving that success built through kindness lasted longer than success built through arrogance. That he offered Vivian an honorary advisory position instead of forcing her into public disgrace. He wanted her experience, not her humiliation. Real leadership, he explained, lifted people instead of crushing them. Clara watched the moment through tears she could no longer hide. She realized the man she had loved years ago had become even stronger because suffering had deepened his compassion rather than hardening his heart. Months later, after rebuilding both the company and their friendship, Graham and Clara found themselves once again at the same community park where they had first met. Children laughed nearby while volunteers painted fresh murals beneath the warm afternoon sun. Elsie, now older and full of confidence, smiled as she watched the two people she loved most finally standing side by side again without fear, pressure, or judgment. Their reunion did not erase the painful years they had lost, but it transformed those years into lessons that shaped a better future. Vivian became one of the company's strongest advocates for scholarship programs supporting single parents and young entrepreneurs from modest backgrounds. She often admitted publicly that the greatest investment she had ever made was learning humility. Mercer Whitmore Holdings soon became known not only for financial success but also for treating employees like family. Promotions were earned through character and effort instead of social status. Graham insisted every executive spend time working alongside frontline employees because respect began with understanding. One bright afternoon, the company unveiled a community center dedicated to families rebuilding their lives after hardship. Graham stood quietly at the back while children filled the halls with laughter. No magazine cover, luxury office, or business award ever brought him as much happiness as watching Elsie proudly volunteer beside Clara, helping other families believe tomorrow could be better than today. Before this story comes to an end, take a moment to leave a meaningful comment telling us what you believe matters more in life: wealth, kindness, forgiveness, or humility, and why your choice speaks to your heart. As the afternoon sunlight poured through the community center windows, Graham realized the greatest victory had never been buying a family empire. His greatest victory had been refusing to let rejection change the kind of man he was. Wealth had given him influence, but forgiveness had given him peace. Vivian had regained her family not because money saved her, but because humility opened the door that pride had kept locked for years. Clara discovered that love rooted in character could survive even the harshest storms, and Elsie grew into a young woman who understood that a person's value could never be measured by a bank account. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Remember, the richest people are not always those who own the biggest companies, but those who never allow success to replace compassion or hardship to steal their kindness.